Okay, to draw a one-point perspective room, we begin with a rectangle that represents the back wall. The back wall moves in two of our three dimensions, height and width. Alright? Usually it's a little bit longer. This is an imaginary room. I'm going to say that this is an 8-foot high room. So this would be 8. This is 0. Therefore I know the center of that is going to be 4 feet high. The middle of that is 6. The middle of this would be 2. That helps me find my 5 foot and my 3 foot. My 5 foot is important because that's the height of an average person, right? So my horizon line is going to be at 5 feet. And I'm going to create a vanishing point. For this drawing, we're just going to do it right in the middle of that back wall, as if the person were standing in the center of the room, but out here so we can see the floor. I put the rectangle at the top third of my page so that I would have room to draw furniture and furnishings out in front. Okay. I can create a room then by drawing from the vanishing point through the corners of the box, not to the corners of the paper, but continuing that trajectory that's created from the vanishing point on out to the edge of the page. And that represents then the edges between the walls and the floor and the walls and the ceiling. I've got ceiling, floor, left wall, right wall, and back wall. In one-point perspective, I can measure height and width and say that they're equal. So if I take and place the lead of my pencil, the 8 foot, and I pinch my pencil at the 0, and I turn that here, I can say this is about 8 foot out into the room, since this is 8 foot high and this is equal to that height. That's a square. Half of that's going to be 4. I can find my 2 and my 6. Looks like this room is about, if I take another 4 to the 8 and say that's 12, looks like this is about 13 feet in this room. Halfway between there would be 8, right? So this is a 13 or 14 foot wide room, 8 feet high. I next need to find depth. I'm going to take my 8 feet, pinch the pencil, and pull that out to here and say 8 foot's going to be something like that. I'm going to cheat it in. There is a way to find exactly 8 feet out into the room. It's a little bit complicated, so I'm going to keep it simple because I'm just sketching. So I'm going to come out the same distance as my 8 feet here. Then I'm going to pull it back just a little bit, and I'm going to say that's 8 feet. The reason this is going to work is because from here I'm going to measure half of this rectangle by going from this corner to this corner with a line, and this corner to this corner with a line, and where that X crosses is the center of the room. Notice that if I take a line and go horizontally here, say this is my 4 and this is my 8 feet out in the room, that this distance here should be greater than that distance there, and it is, right? So the railroad tracks get further apart as they get closer to us, right? In perspective, things get smaller as they diminish into the distance. I can go from this X in the center of the room and this vanishing point to divide that, and then I can X off this box to find a 2 foot, and I can X this box if I want to find 6 foot, and these should be getting gradually bigger as they come out. If I want to add another 4 feet, then I come from 4 to 8, that's 4 feet, and instead of making this the center, I make this the center. I continue that line on through, and where that meets this line out here on the side would be a 12-foot line across the front of the room. So 10 is going to be half of that. And now I've got increasing increments as it comes forward into the room. Alright, I want to set up a sofa. Sofas are 3 feet high, 3 feet deep, and 6 feet wide. I'm going to say width now is this here, because I'm going to lay my sofa along the edge of the wall, of course. So let's say I start that sofa at 4 feet. It's going to come out to 10 feet, because 4 plus 6 is 10, right? So first I'm going to draw the box that the sofa was shipped in. It's going to lay along the wall here. In order to begin drawing the box that the sofa was shipped in, I'm first going to draw the footprint that box would make on the floor. So I'm coming here 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, because I said the sofa was going to be 3 foot wide now that it's sitting in the room like that. Come 3 foot out in the room here, and if I come horizontally, because I'm in 1 point perspective, my height is always vertical, my width is always horizontal, and my depth is always going to be towards the vanishing point. Alright, those are my 3 dimensions. Coming out from the vanishing point, going vertical, the floor plane moves in width, horizontal, and depth. So everything on the floor is either going to go vertically or towards the vanishing point. I want to draw the shadow of that box on the wall, so I'm coming up the wall here, but how high? Well, I know my sofa is 3 foot high. 1, 2, 3. If I come from the vanishing point through the 3 foot in the corner, I can draw a line all along this wall at the 3 foot height. This wall moves vertically and in depth. Every plane has 2 dimensions, right? So every line on this wall is going to be headed towards the vanishing point, or straight up and down. So I'm going to come straight up and down to that 3 foot line that I drew on the wall here and here. And if I come vertically out from here, sorry, this is horizontal. If I come horizontally out from here and vertically up from here, and do that in the back, then these 2 points should meet on their way to the vanishing point. And now I have an acrylic box here drawn, into which this is the bounding box of my sofa. I can double check this. If this height I say is 3 and I go this way and it's about the same, then I know I've got about a 3 foot 3. This should also be square at the end because I want this to be 3 by 3. This depth is going to be collapsing. It's going to change as to whether I bring it out here in the room or back here in the room. So I need to trust this measuring line along here for that 6 foot measure. Okay? I can measure anything on this surface. So if it's a height-width plane, I can just divide that in half and say this is going to be 1.5 feet, right? So if this is 3 foot high from here to here, I can say from here to here is going to be 1.5 feet, right? That's where the seat of my sofa is going to lie. It's about 1.5 feet from most people's foot to their knee. If you take a 6 foot person, you say their hip comes here to the couch, or their hip is going to come, here to the top of the sofa. This is your head, your rib cage, your pelvis. Your hip's going to be about there at the top of the sofa, and halfway between your feet and your hip, of course, is your knee. So that's at 1.5. Alright? We've got to keep coming down to get this knee and that knee, like so, in perspective, right? Your hands hang at about 3 feet. And that's why the 3 foot is so important in the room, because that's where the top of the chairs are. When you pull a chair back, you're grabbing the top of it. Light switches hit at 3. Tables and chairs are all just above or just below 3 foot level, because that's where your hands are. It's good design. Alright, so here's my sofa. I've got my seat. Because I want to make a sofa with a cushion that divides in half, I'm going to right now divide my seat by Xing across this way, just like I X'd across this plane over here, and find the center right here, draw horizontally across. That tells me where the center of the box is. Notice that this part of the box is much bigger than this part of the box. It's reducing as it goes off into space. Okay? I also, at this point, when I know my center seat is here, I can come in here just a little bit and tilt the back of the sofa about 30 degrees to create a lean. I want to come back here and lean this as well. These are the only lines that do not go to the vanishing point. These are going off, leaning at a different distance. I'm basically just repeating the lean back there. I can come here and repeat the lean in the middle of my sofa too. I can come in here a little bit and draw the top. This is going to go straight horizontal, and then this is going to come back along there. So I'm seeing now, here's the side of the couch, here's the top of the couch, here's the back of the cushion, right? Halfway between the top and the seat is where the arm is going to happen. This is approximate. Every sofa is going to be designed differently, but this is going to set you up with a rubric into which you can design any sofa you want. Alright, so this arm's going to come back here. These two lines here are going towards vanishing point. They're going to meet on their way towards vanishing point. This arm is going to be a little bit thicker than this arm back here, because we want it to reduce as it goes off into the distance. So when I draw the back arm, I'm not really measuring everything back, although I could. Right now I just want to kind of make sure, since I'm sketching, that feels smaller than this does up here, right? I can go halfway between the seat and the floor, give myself a support. There's usually a board down here that supports a cushion, right? So if this is my sofa cushion here, sometimes we symbolize it by putting little parentheses around it or rounding the corners. That makes the couch look a little more cushy or comfy. We round spots like this out, perhaps. You can see my couch developing, or my sofa, I should say, since I'm an interior designer, right? If I erase some of my construction lines back here and that floor line, you'll be able to see the sofa developing here as I draw. This is the basic sofa shape. Okay, that's sort of a 1950s, very squarish kind of sofa. If I wanted to embellish it and make it more interesting, I can do things like put rounded ends on the handles. You know how at the end of a sofa you often get something like this, right? Well, when that goes off into space, it connects at the back with the same kind of a P-shaped curve as you see at the front. This curve is repeated at the back. This circle, we'll just draw a little isometric reminder here of our perspective box. On top of the box, everything that sits on the horizontal surface should be drawn with a horizontal guideline ellipse, right? Everything that sits on the right side of the box is going to lean a little bit to the right, and everything that sits on the left side of the box is going to lean a little bit to the left, if I'm talking about the narrow axis of the ellipse there, right? So, this side of the box relates to this end of the couch. So this end of the couch, I'm going to draw this ellipse here. If I want to put an arm on here like so, and here, I'm going to draw a little bit of an ellipse that's tilted off to the left to make kind of a P shape here, and then this line and this line are going to relate to the curve that comes up in here, right? And I can create that curve here again. I can use contouring here to sort of round that around, repeating this circle here, here. Every plane moves in two directions, right? So this back of the sofa is moving in this angle and off towards the vanishing point. The top of this cushion is going horizontal and vanishing point. The front is going vertical and vanishing point. This is going rounded like a cylinder and horizontal, as we see by this outline and this outline here. This becomes useful when you start shading. It's about here where it turns from the top of the armrest to the side of the armrest, and that's where the shadow is going to start. That's where your shadow core is going to actually be. And then you can shade this whole side of the sofa if you wanted. In by putting in more contouring. You could put a shadow underneath the sofa too if you wanted. Just to sort of make this part pop out here, right? This would be shaded here. You get a little cast shadow onto the arm. If this were a window, is kind of how I'm shading, as if things were coming from that direction, right? Here, I want to create this roundness at the back of there. Connect to my sofa. Do a little erasing so the light can hit the top, and so that you can see how I'm thinking about the end of that. All right. If I want to place an ottoman in front of this sofa, I can come in the center of the sofa, if I wanted to sit in the middle, and come in the center down to the floor, and then walk out horizontally out into the room. The center should be at about 7 feet, right? I started at 4 and came out to 10. If I wanted to come to this 8 and find the 7, I could walk to the center here, and then I could come out a foot or two this way and a foot or two that way. I'm just going to sort of estimate along here. Say I want the ottoman to sit here and here, and go from 4 to 5 maybe out in there. Make it about a foot. Moving away from the vanishing point now, moving across horizontal. I've created a footprint for the ottoman to sit in front of the footprint of the sofa. If I always work from the footprints, I make sure that everything is sitting in the room in relationship, and then when the ottoman, for instance, comes up and covers the sofa, I'm not in trouble here in saying that that's, how exactly is that going to sit. I'm going to walk the front of the ottoman to the line of the sofa. I'm going to walk it up to the top of the seat and say the ottoman's going to be the same height as the seat. So walk over to the front of the sofa, walk up to the top of the seat, walk back out into the room at seat height, and that tells you exactly how high this line and this line should be and where they should stop to make an ottoman that is the same height as the seat. So the ottoman is 1.5 feet high. 1.5 feet high here in the room is this big. 1.5 feet high here in the room is bigger than that because I'm closer to the viewer. This line goes up until it meets a line where this is on its way to the vanishing point, so that's where that line wants to stop. This line comes up from this corner, and I can either come horizontally across from here or check it by seeing if these two meet on their way to the vanishing point. Check my horizontals. Drawing is a series of corrections. Right, so here's an acrylic box in which the ottoman was shipped. If I go about halfway down on that, I can create a wood support. I kind of want it to match my sofa, or to coordinate with it at least, right? So there's the wood, here's the cushion. I can round this cushion off a little bit like so. I'm going to X across here to find my center lines because I want to put my buttons in these quadrants, and I want my buttons to line up on horizontal and on vanishing point, which is the dimensions of this, and then I can contour a little bit here to make that ottoman look a little bit fluffy. If I want to shade this end of it so that I've got continuity in the room, I can also shade underneath it a bit. I can put feet on that ottoman. I made my ottoman feet a little bit fancy. I want to make my chair feet now. I can make any modifications to this to match anything I might find in the world, right? If I want to make this sofa a little bit more interesting, or let's do a little bit of a rococo kind of thing. Taking my center line, making a little decoration. I'm trying to keep these two, or these three ellipses tilting just a little bit like this ellipse up here. So I have consistency. In my ellipses. I want to make this one smaller than that one. This one sits maybe here. I don't know. I'm going to start. I can play a little bit once I get some things set up in terms of decoration for this crazy frilly whatever I'm doing here, right? Would be better if I had a picture and was looking at that to draw from. With this kind of thing going on out here, there's probably some wood decoration happening out here. Even without a picture, I could design something sort of interesting, or I could modify an image that I have. This might divide in three, this might have something here. Modifications can be made as you wish. Cool. That is a 1-point setup So a little bit of an introduction to shading. Great.